You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
It's your co-host, Danny.
Fans, we got a fun show for you today. First, a little NBA talk, WNBA talk thereafter, and then a little bit about the Milwaukee Brewers. But first, Danny, right into the NBA where we have finally a finals matchup that includes the Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics. The Dallas Mavericks just went ahead and whooped up on the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 5 in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. In particular, Luka in the first quarter. Oh boy, from the logo. I mean, come on, man. Luka had 21 in the first quarter and was talking mad trash to everybody. He was talking to not only the Minnesota Timberwolves bench, but he was talking to everybody on the sideline, everybody in the arena. Mm-hmm. And he showed who he really is. Let me just say, Danny, I thought that this was going to be a close game. I thought Minnesota may have found a silver lining in the Game 4 victory down in Dallas. Mm-hmm. But boy, was I wrong. And I'll have to say this. I think you have to put some blame. You have to put some blame of this game, man, on some of the Minnesota Timberwolves players who are talking some trash, saying that they're going to win 3 games in a row, all that stuff. You got to be quiet. You were trying to wake up a sleeping giant, and you succeeded. Luka just went ahead and went off in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. The Dallas Mavericks ends up scoring 69 points in the first half. So the score was like 69-40. This was already a blowout. This was already game over in the first quarter. Danny, what say you about this Dallas Mavericks Minnesota Timberwolves Game 5 final game?
Jason, I think this is part of the learning experience. The Timberwolves got taught a lesson because they're coming in, beating Denver, and I've bought into it. You got to realize Kyrie and Luka, they've been there. They've been in these situations. Mm-hmm. This was new for the Timberwolves. And with them getting kicked in the mouth, those first 3 out of 4 games, you know, it was a humbling experience, but they had no energy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, Lucas hit 1, 2, 3. You got to do something to get him off his game. And they had no answer.
I thought they were going to blitz him. I thought they were going to double team. Something. I mean, it was just purely one-on-one, but then a lot of switching. And the amount of space that Luka created, mm-hmm. just whether it's off of the switches or just off of the step back, whatever the case may be, he was hot as fish grease. And all I'm saying is when a player is that hot, you got to do something different. I blame the coaches on this because just the defensive strategy against Luka just wasn't flexible enough.
But Jason, even look at once Luka said, all right, I did my thing. Kyrie, you go ahead and get your 36. That's on the players too, man. It's Game 5. And Minnesota looks so flat at home. It wasn't like they're on the road. They're at home and got blew out. The kicker here, though, is will this team be the same next year? And they need to make some changes.
Big time, because I really believe, Danny, that Rudy Gobert has been exposed yet again in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Yes, defensive player of the year for the umpteenth time, but at the same token, it's not working out. It's not working out to the point where Rudy can guard I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
drop coverage defense is a defense that the Milwaukee Bucks has successfully used and won a championship off of. That was what, 3 years ago?
Yep.
You can't do that any longer. I think the NBA has caught on. The rest of the teams have caught on. And if you have flexible players, athletic players who can dive to the basket and go get the alley oops, I mean, this series really exposed Rudy Gobert, and I don't think you can have the likes of Rudy Gobert and Pat to be in there together.
Mm-mm.
I think teams are getting more and more athletic. The one-on-one guard play is really becoming critical, and I just don't think drop coverage defense is going to be one to be successful, too successful later on down the road here. I think the Bucks do it successfully
Yeah.
because there was some athletic ability there of Giannis to help cover things up. Brook would go down and do the drop and everything, but when you have Giannis there, that's an eraser. So I don't think you have that in Cat and Rudy at all. So I don't know. Timberwolves going to have to make a change here, and I just don't think it's going to be just through general improvement in terms of year to year, summer to summer. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be personnel changes. What that looks like, that's for the GM to decide.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Danny, on to the finals, where you have the Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics. This is going to be very intriguing. I don't know, man. I've been going back and forth on this. I thought about Luka, who can guard him or who can contain him. I don't know if there's going to be anybody who can stop him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to get his. I think there's going to be a couple games that he's completely off, but there's going to be a couple games that he's on. What kind of coaching is going to happen here? I think Missoula is going to be really challenged here from a coaching standpoint. Jay Kidd has been there, done that as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Porzingis, I think there's going to be questions there. I think he's going to be playing game one. What does that look like? How flexible is he going to be? Can he stick with the athletic players? This is going to be really intriguing. Jason Tatum, who is he going to guard? See, I think you put Tatum, or excuse me, even Drew Holiday. Who does Drew guard? I don't think you put Drew on Kyrie. I think Kyrie will tire him out quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
running around. Just a whole lot of I'm just looking at it from a defensive point of view. I'm loving this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what Lively is going to do in this, the rookie,
Yep.
against Porzingis. I wonder if Boston is going to go big. Are they going to go ahead and play Porzingis and Horford together? This is going to be interesting, man. What say you, Danny, about this final series?
Yeah, Jay, I'm looking forward to it. To your point, these defensive matchups, because Derek White, technically, I'm not saying he's going to stop Kyrie. He's capable of, at least staying with him. And if they do play Drew on him, they can switch. So this is where Derek White and Drew Holiday backcourt helps. Luka obviously is the X factor, but this is where they have to attack Luka when Luka's on defense. You got to attack him. His mobility is not there. I'm not sure now because he's getting a nice break, how that knee is and getting the treatment. So that's definitely going to help, get him close to being right.
Mm-hmm.
And then with KP or Porzingis coming back into the fold, how does that mess with rotations?
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot going on here, man. And this long break is killing me. But it's a date that the NBA sets, beginning of the season, whatever. So it's one of those things where you just want to see them play a game. So then you can react accordingly because you just don't know how they're going to play. And Boston, has those times where they can fall apart, especially in like a game one. I just need to see that first game and kind of see what the matchups look like and who they put on who as far as Luka and Kyrie.
Well, it's interesting because when Luca interviewed with the TNT inside the NBA crew,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that Charles Barkley said to Luca was one of his regrets was not preparing his squad for game one against the Bulls
Mm-hmm.
that was led by Jordan.
Yep.
And he said all the other games were close. It was just that game one. And so that could have been an entirely different series, he thought, had they gotten game one. I think Luca, you're going to get this crew together for game one, but I think that game one's going to be kind of epic because I think they're both going to be going at it. And this is going to be a great series.
And I would say, Jason, the pressure's on Boston.
Big time.
So that's another factor in this whole thing. Because Dallas is playing with house money, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's Boston that's been here before and haven't sealed the deal.
Mm-hmm.
The Tatum Brown combo.
Mm-hmm.
So the pressure's on them. So if they drop that first game.
And the storylines are going to be great, man. You got Kyrie going back into Boston. You got Porzingis going against Luka, former teammates. This is going to be great.
Yes.
This going 6 or 7 games, man.
I can see that.
I don't know who will win. I'm still trying to figure that out. We'll give our predictions at some point, not this particular podcast. And now, Danny, on to the WNBA, where the Indiana Fever and Chicago Skies matched up. And I think what's been the whole talk here has been the shoulder check against Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say this, man, WNBA is getting a lot of exposure, obviously because of Caitlin. And there may not be as many people, those included in the WNBA players, as appreciative, if you will, that Caitlin's getting all the shine. And so I think there's that thought of it. There's the other thought of, a lot of players who've been a part of the WNBA for years, sacrificed their body for years. And Caitlin comes in a matter of a month and totally change things around. So I think there's that part of it too. And I think, there's the part of older players versus a younger player. Also, there's the thought of players wanting to be more aggressive, quote unquote. So I think there's a whole lot of layers to this. And then race plays a factor as well. I think more so from a media standpoint. But nonetheless, I think that's another layer to it all. I think this carryover from college when you had Iowa against LSU, if you will, that carryover. So there's a whole lot of layers here. I think, though, when you have new eyes on a league, I think the league is going to have to really manage how physical they want the game to be, and they need to be consistent. And I think this is a new thing for the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, because we were too young, Danny, when Magic and Bird came into the league. And I'm imagining that things changed dramatically upon their arrival. I don't know all the rules that changed or the dynamics, if you will. But I think, Caitlin coming in, it could be very similar to when the likes of Bird Magic came in. I'm pretty certain Magic has some haters. Bird has some haters to some degree.
Yep.
And where they wanted the older players wanted to challenge the newcomers just to see how good they really are. Just to kind of gauge it. Well, Magic went on to win a championship that very first year. So you can tell how good he was. Bird was kind of in the mix there too. So, I mean, there's a whole lot, but nonetheless, man, WNBA is still getting these viewerships. They're still getting these eyeballs, and they're getting these advertising dollars, and they are getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's good for the entire league, for all the players. What say you, Danny, about the WNBA?
Jason, I think one thing of note is when this game happened, it was an 11 o'clock Central Standard Time game. Nothing else this weekend. There was no NBA. Major League Baseball was whatever. UFC was that night, but there wasn't like a lot going on. So it's kind of a slow news cycle too. So they needed something to glom onto, and this this happened to be it. And I look at it too. I thought about Jordan when Jordan came into the league. Jordan signed that big deal with Nike. A lot of people, he took a lot of attention. His team wasn't good. Remember when he played with the Bulls, them early years, them teams were terrible. But a lot of people saw him in those commercials. He ended up going with Gatorade. So it's very similar that way from that standpoint. Because if you remember when the Pistons played him, Jordan was getting beat down in those games, like taken out of the air, beat down.
Yep.
Like Lane Beer Mahorn. Not to say that's what happened on Saturday, but that's when I was thinking in my head. I was like, that could be it. But the other thing I think they got to take advantage of is the whole Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. They have a rivalry brewing. So that's something you kind of build upon. If you watch Caitlin Clark play, she talks a lot of smack too. And I think that gets lost on a lot of people because they're seeing the reaction. So, but if you watch the game, something was said. They didn't say what on the play before because the Fever scored and there was some jawing between the girl from the sky and Caitlin Clark, the guard. What happened with this? But there's a lot that goes on, and we've played basketball. It's any sport, and certain things. If she says something sideways to her, you don't know. People react differently. This is good for WNBA, but like you said, how do they adapt to this attention? How do they take advantage of this attention and not lose sight of it? Because this is a great opportunity. I don't see it as a black eye or anything. I think that's overboard. I think it was a play prior to the game. You got people talking about it. Who's in the past, when have people talked about a WNBA game from a Saturday on national sports shows? This is where WNBA has to take advantage of this and run with it. You know, it was an unfortunate incident. You don't like to see plays like that because that's dirty. But in the same token, now this has happened. What happens next?
And Trinity Carter is the
thank you
player who actually had a game high 19 points off the bench. But again, she went ahead and shoulder check Caitlin Clark, man. The Fever ended up winning that game 71-70. So close game. Rivalry brewing there. Great for the WNBA for eyeballs perspective. And we'll see what happens.
Yep.
And now, Danny, on to another topic here. Something that we haven't brought up. We were meaning to bring it up, but we wanted to see how these Milwaukee Brewers actually played this thing out, man, because we know how the Brewers can get. But they've been balling. They've been balling. They have a big series against the Philadelphia Phillies starting tonight. I'm looking forward to this series, man. But the Brewers are actually 7 games ahead of the Cardinals in the Central Division within the National League. And, oh, boy, these Brewers are showing some promise, Danny. They're showing some promise. Again, they face off against the Philadelphia Phillies, who are 6.5 games in front of the Braves in their division. So we have divisional front-leading teams going at it starting tonight. This is going to be great. I'm really hoping that these Brewers are competitive against the Philadelphia Phillies. That's what I really want to see. I really want to see a competitive series. Give us a couple wins, so that way we can finally be in the national limelight for finally. We'll see, Danny, but these Brewers have been balling. What say you about the Milwaukee Brewers?
Agree, Jason. They had a couple close calls against the White Sox this weekend, Saturday in particular, where they squeaked it out in the 10th inning. but they won 8 of 10, and this is called a heat check right now. They're on the road in Philadelphia, and the Phillies, they're a powerhouse, man. They have some bats. Bryce Harper, Schwarber, the whole crew, man. So this is where you need the pitching to come in, at least keep them at bay. So so you could keep it like a 6-5 game or something like that. Phillies can score in bunches. It's just exciting for the Brewers, man. And like I've said in the past, this is where you got to collect these games, because when you get in the dog days of July and August, that's where things can fall apart, especially after the All-Star break. We've seen the Brewers do that how many times? Guess who's creeping up on them? The St. Louis Cardinals. They're in second place now. They're still under 500, mind you. You know what the St. Louis Cardinals turn it on. As soon as their All-Star break is done, it's their turn.
Start to try to turn on, yep.
So this is where you got to watch them, and you got to take advantage of these games. So I'm looking forward to this series. And like you said, the Brewers got to take at least, they got to get 2 games. If they get 1, I'll be happy, but 2 would be great because they're on the road.
Yeah.
So,
and for a small market team, man, this would be, just a big time win if they could get this series, man. Because, the Brewers got to, we got to think about the rest of the year, man. We got to think about the rest of the schedule. The Brewers against the Phillies, 3-game series. After that, they have Detroit. After that, Toronto, Cincinnati, and then the Angels, and then San Diego. And that would actually wrap up the likes of June June ends with the Rangers, and then the lowly Chicago Cubs. So the Brewers got a shot here to do something kind of great here. And here's my hope, Danny. My hope is that this executive team, the front office, I'm hoping that they make the right moves. Because I think the Brewers, come midsummer, they're going to be in the running here. And I think if they get another bat and another pitcher, we're going to be right.
I agree, Jason. I think they need 1 or 2 pitchers to add to that staff, depending on when some of the others that are injured right now, when they come back. But totally agree. And you got to look at, too, for comparison's sake, they're 36-23. The Dodgers are 38-23. The Dodgers have like a $1 trillion $1 trillion payroll. So you got to put that all in comparison. You're right there. So that's where you got to look at that, man. And the teams you mentioned, they're all hovering around 500. So these are games, too, where they could go either way. But the Brewers have to take advantage of June based on what you said from the schedule standpoint and keep up this hot streak. But they got to start with Philadelphia and at least get 1 game. 1 game is what they need.
Yeah, because look, like I'm looking at July. They begin July really against the Rockies, Colorado Rockies, and then the Dodgers, Pittsburgh, and then Washington. Get all the victories you can early on here, man, because ain't no telling what's going to happen in July.
Like they say in spades, stack them books. Stack them wins, Brewers.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.